Hi everyone, David Maley here, and we're back for part 2 of this video series where I'm going to show you how to make some amazing custom graphs. And we're going to take your regular graphs, your default graphs in GGPLOT2, and make them into really cool things that pop and that tell the story better and that will look great in your presentations and for your users or in your reports and your analyses. So if you look here, this is our year-over-year graph. We're going to do that later. What we're first going to start off with here is just to review what we did last time. We were using tool rental data from 2016 and 2017. I'll be posting that data set shortly on Kaggle, and you'll be able to use it from there. And these are the libraries we're using. Obviously, everybody knows that Tidyverse has ggplot in it, but if you want to load it separately, just load it like library like this. So basically, you just need 3 of these. VioPlot, GGPLOT2, and ReadXL, or you can have Tidyverse, that's fine. If you don't have one of these libraries, install it with this code right here. Then you're just going to bring in the data set right here, just like this. And once you've brought that in, what we're going to do, last time we did violin plots, histograms, and bar plots. If you haven't seen the first part of this series, go and watch that. But you don't have to see this. So for part 2, we're going to do density plots, scatter plots, and then, of course, my favorite, the year-over-year graphs. So let's get into that. So we go down here, and let's see, right here, we're going to go to density plots. So we're going to start off with that. And, you know, when you see a density plot, you're just going to see the basics. I'm going to show you a basic one here, and it's going to have, you know, your X and Y axis labels of density and rentals. And this is what it's basically going to look like. So let's do this. And it's kind of boring and ugly, right? It's just a line, and it tells us a little bit of a story, but we can make it look a whole lot better. You don't put something like that in your report. I mean, unless you want people to know, okay, I'm using R. But you're using base, so you're not using anything extra in there. So let's go take this and make it pop. And by the way, these are the codes for that. So we're just using QPlot here. And our data frame is test data 3. We're using the new rentals column, remember, so that is the sales or the rentals, I'm sorry, of new or rentals to new people that have not rented previously these commercial tools and stuff. So what we're going to do in the next one, if you take a look at that versus the next one, what we're doing here is we're going to use a little color, right? So we're going to fill equals I. Blue is right here, and then we also have color of the outer side of it is black. So watch this. So that'll be the indication of the outsides of these. So watch, if we hit this, see, it's blue with an outline of black. Okay, it's the same graph, but it looks a little bit better. It's got some color to it. It's a little bit better. Now we're going to take it up a little bit better. So sometimes instead of using a density plot like this, maybe sometimes you want to use a smooth graph. So smooth is where you have more of a line and the outer limit showing the representation of your data a little bit better. So if we take this, watch this, that's the actual representation of your data. So your rentals and the density of it. And that just looks a lot better. And it's got your upper and lower bounds throughout this. That's what this graph does. So to do that, you could just use the geom equals smooth right here, fill equals temperature, and then we've got obviously the rentals, density, and rentals here. See how we did that? That's very simple. Density plots and a smooth graph with the X and Y labels on it. Now, next we're going to go to scatter plots. So let's look at a regular generic scatter plot. Very basic one, right? So let's do this, and there it is. That's a basic plot, and I see people actually putting this stuff in the reports all the time. You know, you're missing some pieces here because there could be more to this data. These dots are not always equal, even though they're plotted this way. They could represent different days, different weeks, different months, different seasons, different categories. It could represent all kinds of things. So we don't want to just show black dots. So the next one I'm going to do is I'm going to do this with an added dimension of color by the weekday. So by the way, we're using the ggplot function here with our data frame test data 3. Aesthetics, and the aesthetics area, what you're going to do is you're going to use an X and a Y. So we're using new rentals and Y equals temp for temperature. Okay, plus geom point. But now what I'm going to do in this one, if you look, we've added something else to it. So now it's the same code as what you saw above, but color equals weekday is following temp, the y axis. So if we do that, now we have this. So now you have weekday, right, along with the same graphs. Now you have a breakdown of, well, what, where are these weekdays? You can see a little bit more representation of maybe people buy more on Sundays on this side and a lot less on this side. That's interesting. Maybe one part of the year they buy on Sundays, maybe another part they don't, because you can look at the difference in temperatures, and you can start to look at and start doing exploratory data analysis here. This is what we do. We look at different graphs and say, well, what kind of hidden meanings are there here? Now the same thing, I'll take that, and instead of by weekday, now I'm going to do it by season. So the difference here is where it says color equals weekday above, I put color equals season. So let's see if that does anything different. And then you can see the seasons. Now the seasons, you can see some black dots going out all the way over here, but a lot of it's over here. So that first season is right here. We know that by the temperature too. But you can see like the other seasons here, and maybe using some different colors might change this up, but it gives you an idea of, now you have the seasons broken out, you have the weekdays broken out. Now what if I want to take the same thing and I want to add the geom smooth that we did earlier in the scatter plots that we just did, and I want to add it to this. So what I've got is the same graph I just did, but I'm just adding this plus at the end plus geom smooth. Let's see what that does. That gives me the exact same graph, plus I've got the graph I had earlier, which gives me an idea of representation of how this data moves and how it's the upper bounds, lower bounds. It gives me more behind the data. So next, I've got one more here. So in the case like this, where I have 2 years worth of daily data, I might want to be a little more accurate, and there's a method that's called the GAM or GAM method. It's for less smoothing, and so basically the only difference is I take the above code and see where there's the two parentheses behind geom smooth. I'm going to fill that area with just this. Method equals GAM and formula equals y of x, just like that. So what we're going to do is take this, and you'll see a little difference. So the difference is it shows more representative of the data. It really actually is a little more accurate looking rather than a straight line almost was through here. And that's actually better with this data. Now it depends on the data you're using. You can use both of these. So you can use this and use the one above and see which one better represents your data. It helps you look in your data and show and tell the story of your data. Now after that, we also have my favorite of these that we're going to do in this series, which is the year-over-year graphs. Okay. Now the year-over-year graphs are really cool because you can represent and you can show. You're not just showing year one followed by year two, you're actually putting them on top of each other, which is much better in many cases to show. So what I'm going to do is first, I can't go and show the data the way it is. You've seen the data, the way it's structured, and it's daily data. I need it to be averaged by the mean for each month because I can't go, otherwise I'll have big lines when I'm trying to do this up and down, and it'll be a complete mess. So instead what I do is I take this line right here, and what I'm doing is I'm aggregating. Now the column I'm aggregating is I'm aggregating new rentals and month and year. See how this works? So what I'm doing is I want new rentals, but I want it by month and by year. So I want it so that I have month 1 in the 2016. I don't want that mixed up with the month 1 from 2017. So I want it that way. And what I'm doing is here's the data frame, and then here is the method that I'm doing it to the aggregation. So I'm doing by mean, which is similar to what you would do in SQL and other languages when working with data and aggregating it. So this goes into a new data frame because I want to keep the other one in case I want to go back to it. I like to always go to a new one for something like this, rather than right over the other one, because if I make a mistake, now I got to load back in the other one. So I put this into test data 4 here. So if you run this, that loads it in. Okay, you're not going to see anything there. There's no ggplot or anything there. Next, let me show you the basic year-over-year graph. So if you were to take this graph right here, right, and this is your data frame, aesthetics, where you have your X and your Y, month and new rentals. right? So what I did here was I put it for the month, and then the color is the factor of the year. Okay, so that's going to show us differentiated by the 2 years, okay, and plus geom line. So what this is going to do is do this, and that's your basic year-over-year graph. It's kind of ugly. It does have your columns names here, new rentals and month. The month is not exactly perfect. It shows, instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all the way through 12, and for each, for the entire thing, it's got it as between up to 12.5, and you have to figure out where is the month here, is it here, and then your factor. Remember, the data behind this, if you were to look at it, had it as the years was 0 or 1. Well, we need it to be, the year column was YR was 0 or 1. Was it in 2016? 0. Was it in 2017? It's a 1. Well, we need to have that so that this shows correctly. I don't want to see 0 and 1. I don't want to give that to my users in a report. I want it to say 2016, 2017. The easiest way to do this, I mean, there's other ways. You can go and calculate it through and whatever you want to do. This is the easiest way. Is right here. Is just take your test data, right, your year, which is 0 or 1, and add to it 2015. Because if you do that, if it's a 0, right, or a 1, what's it going to do? So, or in this case, I think it was actually a 1 or a 2. So let's see what happens here. Let's run this. Okay. And next, when I do this, if the years are off by 1, we'll know why. That they need to be 2016. But let's just see. Now, the next one here, once we've done that, we can always look at the data too, because we're test data 4. So let's take a look at the data. Here we are. We have 2015 and we have 2016. So the problem there is we did have 0 and 1. So what we need to do is go back here and actually make that 2016. Okay, oops. So let's do it one more time. Otherwise, it's a year earlier than we needed it. Now let's go here. Now we have 2016 and 2017. That's what we need. Okay? So we have all of our months. By aggregating it that way, we have 1 through 12 and 1 through 12 again for both 2016 and then 2017. And we did by the mean for the month for each of these. So then we go back here, and so we could have also added them all up and done the totals for each month, but I did the mean. Okay, we could do either. It depends on what you're trying to do, or trying to show. So in this case, once we've done that, what we're going to do is, this is a little bit longer, a little bit more complex. We're going to do this big long thing right here. Now what this is, it's your typical ggplot function. So you've got inside here, you've got your data frame, you've got your aesthetics right here, which is your month and your new rentals, right? I could have used, the other ones, the total rentals, or the people that have already rented previously. We also have color equals factor year, right? Same as we had above. Plus, now we're adding something new. The geom point size equals 2, because I want to change the size. I don't want the size to be the same little line. I want to be a little bit bigger. Then I also have, and the geom point, by the way, is different than geom line. We have 2 of these. So I've changed the size on both these. I want the line to be a little bit bigger, not a lot bigger. But the geom point, what that's going to do is that every month it's going to give me a dot. So I know exactly where the month is for each of these lines. So I want that dot to be a little bit bigger. That's why I picked size equals 2. Then we've got GG title. All that is the title that goes at the top of the graph. That's going to put year over year, tool rentals 2016 plus 2017. I can name it whatever I wanted to. Plus, and remember, the pluses always are at the end. They're never at the beginning. It won't work if they are. They're always at the end. Okay. And then we got scale continuous. What this means is, this is where I don't want the month to look like it does at the bottom here right now. I want it to actually be a continuous representation of all the months. So what we do is, you've got this scale x continuous function, and you have month. That's not the name of the actual month column, because that would be lowercase. This is why I want it to represent it here. I want it to look uppercase, the first letter. Then I have the labels as character. Bring in my my column here of month, and then the breaks are at the month. So I want to bring in each month, and I want it to break it at each month. That's the way that works there, that line there. Then we got another plus, and then we're going to bring in the bottom line, which is scale color. In this case, I'm changing. I don't want to just use this like red and this like light colored blue. I want something better. I don't want the standard colors. I can make them whatever I want. I can use either the codes for the colors, or I can use the names. So in this case, I'm using blue and maroon. Okay, I could use yellow, orange, steel blue, whatever I want. And then I've got at the end this plus YLab of the new rentals. So I want this to be changed to look like this, just to reflect this. Now the reason why I don't have XLab in here is I could if I want to, but I don't need to because I already have it right here for this scale continuous of X. Okay, so I need to actually have this because I want it to break the months out better. So that's already got it corrected in here. I don't need to do it again here. Now, when you're doing all these, you can't run this inside a ggplot function normally. So what you have to do is you have to put, I mean you do, but you have to put it into a vector called G. And the reason being is I'm going to also do something else to it. So I could run this as is, but I want one more piece to it. So when I add other pieces to it that are not in here, then what I have to do is I have to go here and say print this vector. See how it goes into G? And I'm going to print that plus the labels color equals year. And the reason why I'm doing this down here is this is actually the legend here. And what I'm doing is I'm going to change this where it's ugly and says factor of year. I don't want to say factor parentheses year. I just want it to say year just like it says month, and it's going to say new rentals correctly. So by changing the legend here, then it'll change that correctly. And so I will have the years here, and I will have the legend correctly above. So let's run this thing through, and let's see what that does. Now you can see what it looks like normally without doing this right here. But now watch what happens. Boom. See the difference? It looks so much better. The size equals 2 geom points. Did each of these points for each of the months. Okay, see how they're a bit bigger than the line. I want them to stick out, but not too big. The line is bigger than it was before. I don't need it any bigger than that because I want to see the circles too, and I don't want to make them outrageous. I want it to be professional looking. So that's why I picked these two. The size equals 2 for the points. Size equals 1.3 for the geom line. You can see the title right here, and again that's what we did right here. And then you can see what's really important here and really cool is this part right here. Okay, before we had, it didn't show the months the way we wanted to. Now look at the months. They're all there, 1 through 12. You know exactly which month is which dot, and it's all broken out correctly because we did it by character, month, and breaks for the column of month. Then we changed the color. See how the colors changed? Because we put this piece right here. This scale color manual values of, blue and maroon. Now if we had 3 years, we would have had to add another one in there, okay? And then we have the YLab of new rentals. See how it shows correctly with capitalization? It looks professional, month, new rentals. And then look, this part right here, you can't pass that into here, so you have to pass that outside. That's why I put it in the G, you put that here. To mess with the legend, you have to do that outside of it just like this, and you print it just like this. So what this did was it took the legend and made it year, and then look what happened. By changing the data to go from 0 and 1 to 2016, 2017, now it shows correctly. I know which is the first year, and I know what's the second year, and I'm comparing every month of growth or decline if it was lower, but there's nothing here that declines. They're all of growth, and it shows me, that the second year they were much stronger in tool rentals. Okay, and now what I'd really want to do is probably look at the graph for the new ones, the new renters, the people that have never rented before, plus I'd want to see the people that previously rented. I would want to see, did we grow on just new? Did we do a lot of advertising? Did we do a lot of marketing throughout the year? Or did we did we cannibalize or lose some of our old customers, in those offers and stuff? Did we, did they grow too at the same time? So we would have to see it both. And then you could also do one of these of your total overall. So that's what your managers or your executives would want to see in a graph like this, is probably to see not just the one, but this is the process you would use, okay? They would want to see In this case, they would want to see 2 or 3 of these. They'd want to see the breakout of the new renters, the subscribers. Are we still keeping them, or are we losing them? Or do we lose them and then they come back? Are they people that come back only for when we have deals or specials, or do they stay long term? How often do they rent? And you'll be able to see peaks. Like here's a peak in 2016. Obviously, we had a lot of people in, what would that be? That would be between the 7th and 8th month. So that one right there is month 7. So you could say, and that would be what, July? So July was a lot of people renting something. I don't know what tools they were renting, but they were renting a lot of tools then. But we had a drop in that month actually in 2017. But we had our peaks were, they're a little bit different. You can see, obviously in the winter and very early, in January and February and December and November, we have our very low periods in both years. So maybe we could do some marketing to, as insights to develop, what you basically want to do is you want to bring up the bottoms here. If we can bring those up, it brings everything else up too. So if we can bring up those customers during those times of the year, during the slow periods, we'll also bring up the customers during the other times of the year, especially if you can add new customers and turn them into repeat customers, repeat renters. So that's what they want to see. So basically what this was a 2-part video series. I wanted to show you how to take the average and mundane graphs, and I see so many people using those. Don't use those. Use these and tweak them to your own liking. Use different colors. Add extra years if you have that data. If you had 5 years data, you can plot 5 years on top of each other. Don't get too heavy and plot like 10 years year over year. That's going to look really ugly. And it kind of sometimes can blend in together and make it hard to read. So you want to make your graphs like this, where it's very easy to see. Here's year over year. Here's our growth, and much more growth during the summer, obviously. And it's just interesting to see, and it makes your data just pop and makes your reports shine. And any good data analyst you want to have, or good data scientist, you want to have great looking graphs that show the story. So when I give this to somebody, they know right here, this is year over year. They know the years. They know, basically from this, they can take a lot of information from this. If I give them some of the earlier ones, you saw some of those base ones, like the histogram, that looked like an Atari monster from back in 1980 or something. You don't want to send your users stuff like that, okay? Use stuff like this, and the code is all here. I'm going to create a R markdown of this, so it'll have the code in it if you want to copy it and play with it and stuff. And I'll post that on ResearchGate. And I'll also take the data set from this, and I'm going to post it on Kaggle next, so that way you guys can go and play with it and try these on your own, and then start using them on your own data and tweak them to the way you like. To make it so you can pick different colors, yellows, blues, oranges, greens, whatever it is you want. Change the names around, change the titles, and do what you need with your data. Thanks again for watching. I hope you found this video series helpful. Please, take a look at my channel. Look at all the other great videos I've got on all kinds of stuff in R and different applications for business analysis, data science, and all that stuff. And so please take a moment to subscribe if you haven't already. Like and share this so other people can benefit from this also. Thanks again, and have a great day.